Ladies and gents, welcome back to another video. In front of me here is a small package, and inside of it is an iPad Pro first generation. This should be the 9.7 inch, and what's going to make this special, I believe this is running iOS 9, which is the original version that it had when it launched back in 2016. So let's get this box opened up, find our iPad inside. Hopefully it's in good condition. And I guess even more importantly, hopefully the seller did not update it. So without further ado, let's get this package opened up. All right, here is our iPad. It is space gray, as you can tell there. Flipping around to the back, you can tell right away this is an iPad Pro because we do have that LED flash and the camera bump, which the iPad Pro 9.7 inch was the first to feature both of those things. We also do have a lightning cable here. This, I cannot tell if this is a legit cable. It does feel real, like it feels like one of the OEM Apple cables. And I guess I'll get it plugged in, and if it gives me a battery or a charging warning message, then we'll know that it's fake. But that's a nice touch. We'll set that over here. Back to the star of the show, the iPad Pro 9.7 inch. Let me give this display a little bit of a clean, and we'll see how it looks here in the light. For some reason, my cleaning cloth adds a bunch of these little, they're almost little specks of the cloth itself that kind of come off. So these are not actually scratches. Let me see if I can do a better job here. And you'll have to just take my word for it. These are not micro scratches on the display. So apart from those, this does appear to be a super clean iPad Pro. There are no cracks, and I'm not even seeing any small scratches at all. Taking a look around the edge of the device, it appears to be in very nice condition. We've got our volume buttons there, power buttons. We've got those quad speakers, headphone jack, our smart connector over there on the left side, and of course the lightning port down at the bottom. All right, so the outside's super clean. Does this thing have any power, or are we gonna need to plug it in? And it is turning on, so that's a good sign. We'll set that there and wait for it to boot up. All right, here we go. This is definitely iOS 9 because we've got slide to unlock as well as the stock iOS 9 wallpaper. So let's go ahead and unlock the device. And here we are at the iOS 9 home screen on the iPad Pro 9.7 inch. And let's head into settings, general, and about. And you can see we're running iOS 9.3. This is a 32 gig model, and it is Wi-Fi only. So this is the base spec iPad Pro. This one I believe was $700 when it came out. I can't quite remember. I'll put that price right there. That's how much this iPad cost new in March of 2016 when this one was launched. So this iPad Pro is a little bit unique. The reason for that is because it was not launched alongside its larger brother, the 12.9 inch iPad Pro. That one was launched several months prior in 2015, and there are actually quite a few differences between these two devices apart from just a difference in screen size. So let me get connected to that Wi-Fi there, and then we'll begin to talk about some of these. So the 12.9 inch iPad Pro was Apple's first iPad Pro. It came out in 2015, and it sort of slotted in alongside the iPad Air 2nd Gen as the ultra premium iPad. This came out several months later in 2016, and it brought a few changes with it. So I'm gonna head into Safari here and see if we can find a good comparison between the original iPad Pros. Looks like every Mac is gonna have a detailed comparison here. Let's see if they have the spec sheet so we can see some of the differences. So here's the first difference. We've got the FaceTime HD camera, which on the 12.9 is 1.2 megapixels. On the 9.7, that's 5 megapixels. That's a pretty substantial increase. We also do have that Retina flash here on the 9.7 inch. That's where the display acts as a camera flash. That's a nice touch. On the rear, we have a pretty significant difference in camera. So the 12.9 kept that same 8 megapixel lens from the iPad Air 2, but the 9.7 inch upgraded that to 12 megapixels. That means we can shoot 4K 30 FPS video as well as 1080p slow motion video. That's up from 1080p regular video on the 12.9 inch and 720p slow motion on the 12.9 inch iPad. So differences in both cameras on these devices, but the differences don't stop there. The 12.9 inch iPad Pro was the first Apple product to feature 4 gigs of RAM, at least the first iOS device. The iPad Pro 9.7 inch only has 2 gigs of RAM, so that is shared with the iPad Air 2nd Gen. There's also a very slight difference in the clock speed. These both share the dual-core A9X chip, but the iPad Pro 12.9 has a 2.2 gigahertz processor versus this one here has the 2.1. So a little bit slower clock speed, better cameras, and half as much memory. There is actually a difference. Apparently here, the iPad Pro 12.9 has USB 3.0. I do not know if that's accurate. I thought the iPhone 15 Pro and the iPad Pro M1 was the first to feature anything above USB 2.0 speeds. Someone please comment down below if you can verify the iPad Pro 12.9 having USB 3.0, because that's actually pretty significant, especially for transferring files from the iPad to the computer. And if you're recording videos like I do, that would actually be super helpful. I might even find myself an iPad Pro to see if I can test that out. But someone leave a comment down below if they know that for sure. Another slight difference is in the iOS version that these shipped with. So the 12.9 came out sooner with iOS 9.1, and this 9.7-inch iPad Pro shipped with 9.3. And I believe this has 9.3.2, so pretty early version of iOS 9, at least for this specific iPad Pro. They shared the same storage, 32, 128, and 256. 256 gigabyte was the most you could ever have in an Apple product at the time. The iPad 4th gen launched with 128 as the high end, and then that would continue here until we get this iPad Pro. It does look like the 9.7-inch does have a few more LTE bands there for internet connectivity. Wi-Fi and Bluetooth are the same. And let's see what else we have. I think everything else is going to be the same apart from the difference in size. Okay, I was wrong before. This one started at $600 and the 12.9-inch started at $800 for that base 32 gigabyte capacity. So that's all the differences, and this is a super cool device to have here in iOS 9, because a lot of times when people get iPads, they keep them for a long time. Those devices are really over-engineered, and we don't use them as often as our phone, so they don't feel quite as slow. We're not doing things very quickly on the iPads, and so a little bit of UI lag is acceptable on a device like this. Something else to consider is battery. The iPad has a much larger battery, so it does not drain or recharge as quick as an iPhone, so that means that the battery health stays for a longer period of time. Take this iPhone 4S for example. Someone might use the entire battery and then recharge it again twice within a single day. That's really difficult on the battery, and that's going to decrease the battery health on that device. As I drop it there. Okay, back to the iPad. Most people do not run through the entire iPad battery within a day. Unless you're really a power user on this thing, the iPad will last you 1 to maybe even 3 or 4 days depending on what your usage case is. So that means that there are fewer charge cycles on the battery. That's going to result in an overall increase in the battery health, or I should say it's not decreased as much over time. So basically what I'm getting at here is that old iPads tend to be hard to find on their original version of iOS because people keep them for such a long time because they don't wear out as fast. So in my opinion, that makes finding a device like this really, really cool to get because they are so hard to find. This is still a great device here in 2024. The only big complaint I have is the fact that it only has 2 gigs of RAM. Apple could have put 4 in. They clearly did that with the larger 12.9-inch. And this only has a 60 hertz panel versus every iPad Pro after this has that ProMotion 120 hertz. So 60 feels pretty smooth here, but if you compare them side to side, ProMotion is really where it's at. And I'm only recording this video in 60 FPS, so this is gonna max out the frame rate that my iPhone's able to capture. But if you were to see this side by side, or if you have a 120 hertz display on any of your devices, you'll notice that this feels pretty laggy even though it is at max frame rate. Some more interesting tidbits about the 9.7-inch iPad Pro. It does have Touch ID down here at the bottom. It's a little bit hard to see with the black bezels. There you can kind of see that. We also have quad speakers. So we've got the 2 speakers at the bottom, which Apple began with the iPad mini in 2012 and then carried that over to the iPad Air and iPad Air 2nd Gen. We also get 2 speakers at the top. So that means you have surround sound audio when holding the device in landscape mode. And the way Apple does this, they have the lower frequencies come out these 2 bottom speakers and the higher frequencies come out of these 2. Now, if you turn the device in portrait mode, that orientation actually changes, and now it's these two speakers with the low frequencies and these two with the high. So it sounds really nice, and although this is the first iPad to feature that quad speaker setup, even today it sounds very nice, and holding the device like this, you really do get an immersive feel for the audio as it's being played. One thing I do want to show you guys is the camera quality. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to head in here to the photos and camera, and I think I'm going to show you guys what the 4K 30 FPS looks like. Unfortunately, we can't do 4K 60. That would match up perfectly with how I'm recording this video, but I can show you how the 4K 30 FPS looks, and we'll go ahead and switch to that right now. So here we are on the iPad. We got the main setup there. That's where the magic happens. And of course, we've got our charging cable that we just picked up. And here is our iPhone 4S. This one is running iOS 5, which is super, super cool. These are actually pretty difficult to find. So there you go, 5.1.1. And you can see this is a 4S because we do have Siri there. So super cool device. And we'll go ahead and put that down here. But what do you guys think about the video and the audio quality coming from the iPad Pro? Here we've got a really dark lamp, and if we switch in underneath, how long does it take to focus? That's actually a pretty slow autofocus time. So obviously iPads aren't made for video recording, but this is capable of doing 4K 30 FPS, as you can see here. So let me know down in the comments, how does this look and how does it sound? Are you impressed by this, or were you expecting a little bit more? Let's go ahead and switch back. So there you guys got to see and hear how the iPad Pro captures audio and video. Now keep in mind this is iOS 9, but that shouldn't make a difference for how the camera performs, at least not for the actual recording process. Of course, we do have some changes in the actual camera application as we go through the software updates, but for the most part, the quality I think has stayed the same. And it's a 12 megapixel lens, the first of its kind on an iPad, and I think it looks pretty good. Now, before we go, let's head into settings and check out these iOS 9 wallpapers. We don't get to see these very often, and there are a few good ones. We've got these stock wallpapers down here at the bottom. These were actually from iOS 8. So some of these came out with the iPhone 6 and 6 Plus, and I think a few of these launched with the iPad Air 2nd Gen. This is actually a really clean one. If we had a white or a gold iPad Pro, I think I would go with that. Some of the other nice ones are these very neutral colors down here at the bottom. And we've got this dark textured one there. I don't know if you'll be able to see that. Bunch of little dots. But I think we're gonna have to go with one of these stock ones. This one's pretty clean. It's not quite as nice as that stock iOS 9 wallpaper here, but I feel like this one's pretty overused just because of the rarity of iOS 9. So here we go. This doesn't quite stand out as much, but it's still super cool. And if you've got an eagle eye, you'll know that this is still iOS 9 based on the layout and the way the applications look here on this device. So there you guys have it. I hope you enjoyed this look at an iPad Pro 9.7 inch here in 2024. This one's never been updated, still running iOS 9.3.2, a super cool device. And I'm thrilled to be able to add this to my collection. And I hope you guys have enjoyed unboxing it and taking a look at it here on the channel. So that's gonna do it for this one. Thank you guys so much for watching. And as always, I look forward to seeing you in another one of my videos.